Catstronauts. Be ready to embark the journey to the universe. Explore new planets, moons, and be the best explorer to win in MLEM Space Agency.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play MLEM Space Agency, game designed by Reiner Knizia and published by Rebel Studio.
And hello everyone, it's Stella.
And Tarrant here from Meeple University.
Alright, let's go to the classroom.
In MLEM Space Agency, players are competing departments of Catstronauts, loading onto ships and trying to explore the galaxy. In this push your luck battle, the commander will roll dice and bend them tactically to determine how far the ship advances, heading through the various moons, planets and features. It's up to the players whether they disembark or push their luck to move into the furthest depths of space. But be warned, one wrong move in deep space and everything might come crashing down. The game ends after 11 rockets have crashed, or one player has disembarked 8 astronauts, and the player with the highest score will be the winner. In this video, our aim is to quick start you on the basic game of MLEM, so we're not going to be taking you through any of the variants or expansions that come with the game. All of the components you see here can be returned to the box. To set up, lay out the board, place the rocket at 0 and the crash marker at the bottom of its track. Lay out the 4 gold tokens. These are objectives players will race to meet for 5 points. Give each player a player board and the 8 matching cat tokens. These are arranged here in any order. Choose a starting first player who takes the rocket ship and the 6 dice. Make a general supply of victory point tokens, which come in 1s, 3s, 5s and 10s, ready for use as required. You're now ready to play. MLEM is played over a series of rounds, each representing one cosmic expedition. The first step of each round is called takeoff, and here players will load their cats onto the rocket. You'll begin with whoever has the rocket board in front of them. They will be the starting commander for this round, and will choose any cat from their player board to place into the commander position of the rocket. Each cat has a special ability associated with it, and I'll explain what those do a little bit later in the video. After the starting commander, you'll go clockwise around the table, each player adding 1 cat to the rocket. Now it's time for the travel phase. The commander will take the 6 dice, and the dice faces are distributed like this: a 1, 2 2s, a 3, a 4 and an afterburner. The commander now rolls the dice and performs all of the following steps alone. Other players do not have a choice in the matter. First, split up the dice into groups, each group representing all rolled dice of a single face. Check the rocket's current position on the trail and discount any groups which do not match the icons printed on that space. Here I've got an afterburner, a 1 and a 2, but no 4, so simply discount the 4s for the rest of this travel step. Next, choose any number of these complete groups to add together to determine movement. For a standard face, movement is equal to the number of pips. For an afterburner face, the movement is based on the number of pips on the afterburner icon in your rocket's location. So in this case, the afterburner is 1. So let's look at the options. Here I could choose to move 1 space with this die, or 1 space with the afterburner, or 4 spaces with the group of 2s, 5 spaces by adding the 2s to the 1, 5 spaces by adding the 2s to the afterburner, 2 spaces by adding the 1 to the afterburner, or 6 spaces using all 4 dice. Importantly, what you're not allowed to do is break up a group. I could not break that group of 2s up to, for example, move 3 spaces with these dice. Having made a choice, let's suppose I took these dice to move 5 spaces. You now advance the rocket that many steps. Then remove any dice you used for this movement, except for any afterburners, and set them aside. They'll play no further part in this round. That means on each subsequent roll in this round, you'll have fewer dice to play with. The exception to this is if the last die is ever removed from the pool. In such a case, you'd always put exactly 1 die back before the next roll. The main ways to score points in MLEM is to have your cats disembark onto the moons and planets that you'll explore. This can't happen until the rocket has reached at least space number 6. After resolving any movement where you have reached at least step 6, all players now have the chance to disembark. Players must state their intentions in turn order, so the commander will say whether they'll disembark or not, then the next player clockwise, and so on down the rocket. If a player chooses to disembark on a moon space, then take that player's cat and place it into the highest scoring unoccupied moon in that space. The player immediately takes points tokens equal to the points covered. Once all moons on a given space are occupied, other players no longer have the option to disembark there. If the rocket is at a planet space, and there will be multiple spaces for each planet, then if you choose to disembark, place your astronaut on the surface of the planet. There can be any number of astronauts on each planet, but when you place your first, you should place it in a column from top to bottom. This is because the order in which your first cat is placed matters for scoring. Planets are scored at the end of the game. Whoever has the most astronauts on a given planet will score the highest number of points, second most will get the second points, and everyone else will get the third points. Ties go to whoever's higher in the column, so here blue would get 3, green would get 2, and the others would get 1. Once everyone has made their choice whether to disembark or not, you'll proceed to the next die roll. You only get one chance to make this decision. Those earlier in turn order don't get a second chance to disembark based on what those after them choose to do. In the event that the commander disembarks, the next player in turn order who is still on the rocket now takes the dice and becomes the commander. Now it will be that player who does the die rolling and makes the choices about movement. However, don't change who has this board. The original commander remains the first player for the round, so that first player can be properly tracked from round to round. The mission can end in one of 3 ways. If the last cat disembarks from the rocket, then the mission is over. Simply move to a new round. Secondly, if the rocket reaches or overshoots this final space on the track, then you've reached deep space. The commander of any rocket which reaches deep space is placed on this space here and scores 7 points. Any other passengers on the rocket disembark here and score 5 points. The final possibility is a crash. If after rolling the dice, none of the faces of the dice match any of the icons next to the rocket, then the rocket cannot move and it crashes. Any astronauts still on the rocket do not get to disembark. They are simply returned to their owner's player boards. Then advance the crash counter 1 space. Regardless of which way the round ends, you now return the rocket ship to the 0 space, hand the rocket board to the next player clockwise, and restore all 6 dice to the pool. Now proceed with the next round's takeoff phase. Each player has an identical set of 8 different astronauts, and each has its own power. This astronaut favours moons. If you disembark at a moon, immediately gain double the points for that moon instead of the printed value. This astronaut favours planets, and at the end of the game, you'll always gain double the points from the planet that one of these astronauts is on. This astronaut favours deep space and will double whichever points it gains for disembarking there. This astronaut gives the rocket a head start. If one or more astronauts showing this icon are present, then the rocket begins on space 3 for the first roll. This astronaut has flexibility. When disembarking, you may choose to disembark 1 space ahead of the rocket or 1 space below. Just note, if you use the effect on space 25, you can only go to the 5-point location, not the 7. This astronaut brought a parachute, and if it's on a rocket which crashes, then it may choose to disembark on the current space before the crash is resolved. Dice with this icon may optionally be used by the commander as if they were a number 1 die, but in their own special groups. The special die may be used by flipping the cat token over. For the ability to be available, you must be on a space which allows the number 1 pip dice. In the role that you can see here, the commander has many options, which include flipping one of these over to move a single space, flipping both of them over to move 2 spaces, simply using the 2 number 1 dice to move 2 spaces, using the 2 number 1 dice and one of these cats to move 3 spaces, or using all of the ones at once to move 4. Since they're flipped, each may be used at most once per mission, and the player who owns the cat has no choice over whether it's used. It's the commander who has full right to decide. These are most often helpful as a way to avoid crashes. Finally, this astronaut is helpful if you want to sabotage the other player's efforts. After disembarking, this cat removes any 1 die from the pool for the rest of the round. This makes it harder for opponents to make long distances. Just remember that running out of dice can never cause a crash. There will always be at least 1 die added back to the pool. The other way to score points in MLEM is to achieve one of the goals, and each of these will go to the first player to achieve that goal, and will give them 5 points. This goes to the first player with 2 cats in deep space. This goes to the first player with 3 cats on any single planet. This one goes to the first player with at least 1 cat on 4 different planets. And this one goes to the first player with cats on 4 moons, whether they're from the same or different spaces. These will only ever go to a single player, so turn order when disembarking is important. The game ends at the end of the round, in which one player has successfully disembarked all 8 astronauts on the board, or after the 11th crash. Add the points you've collected through the game to the endgame points for planets, and the player with the highest score wins. If tied, victory is shared. And that's how to play MLEM Space Agency.
Thanks so much for watching. Your like and comments are much appreciated. Subscribe to see what's coming, and hopefully you have a wonderful day. See you next time.